All right, so picture this. You've just moved. Your dad finally found what he thinks is the perfect house, super close to your school. But there's a pretty big catch. From your brand new bedroom window, you have a direct front row seat to the creepy abandoned house right next door.
Mom? Seriously? This is the only house? Annie complained. I absolutely hate this room. But her mom, well, she wasn't having any of it. Annie, stop. It's just a view. Now help me unpack. And that was pretty much that. The room and that awful view were hers.
And you know what? For a little while, it was actually fine. She settled in, put up her posters, and the creepy house next door just kind of became, well, background noise. That initial fear started to fade away, which, of course, is exactly when things started to get really weird.
It all kicked off, as these stories so often do, with a face in the window.
It was about 9 o'clock at night. Annie was in bed, just trying to fall asleep, and her eyes just sort of drifted over to the window. And that's when she saw it. A figure staring right back at her from the top floor window of the supposedly empty house next door.
She blinked, hard, thinking, okay, it's just a shadow, right? A trick of the light. She was trying so hard to convince herself it was just her imagination running wild. But it wasn't. There was definitely someone in that window, perfectly still, just staring.
She flew out of her bed, heart pounding out of her chest, and just sprinted to her mother's room, banging on the door. "Mom, open up! I saw someone in the window of that abandoned house."
Her mom comes in, half asleep, takes one look out the window, and sees absolutely nothing. "Annie, there's no one there," she sighed. "You've been watching too many horror movies. You were just imagining things. Go back to sleep."
But Annie knew what she saw. And sure enough, the very next night, it was back. So again, she's screaming for her mom. "Quick, you have to see him. He's right there. You didn't believe me." Her mom comes running in, looks towards the window, and in that split second, the figure was just gone.
And her mom has just had it. "Annie, enough," she snapped. "That house is empty. Who would possibly be standing in the window?" Annie was almost in tears. "I know! That's what's so scary!"
And that question, right? It just kind of hangs there in the silent room. Who would be in that window?
So her mom, trying to be the rational adult, comes up with an explanation. "Honey, listen, it's almost Halloween. I bet it's just some kids from the neighborhood trying to play a prank on you." And just like that, Annie's fear wasn't fear anymore. It morphed into something else entirely. It turned into anger.
So now, the whole game has changed. This isn't some spooky ghost story for Annie anymore. No, this is about some neighborhood prankster. And she decided she was not going to be the victim here. She was going to catch them. Her new plan was simple. I am going to catch this little twerp. She was going to find out who it was, tell their parents, and make absolutely sure their Halloween was ruined. No candy, grounded for a month. Oh yeah, it was game on.
So the very next night, she was not hiding under her covers. Oh no. Fueled by this righteous anger, she put on her shoes and marched right out the front door, ready for a full-on confrontation.
It's 9 p.m. sharp. She slips out of her house, crosses the dark yard, and the front door of that old place just creaks open. It was dead silent inside. Every single step she took up that ancient staircase just echoed in the darkness as she made her way to that top-floor room. I mean, she walked over here so full of confidence, right? Totally ready to bust some kid pulling a dumb prank. But now, actually standing inside this place, in this suffocating darkness, all that confidence started to just melt away. And that fear, yeah, it was coming back. She finally gets to the room at the top of the stairs. She peers into the gloom, waiting for her eyes to adjust. And she can see her own bedroom window across the way, all brightly lit and safe. But the room she's in was completely empty. There was no one there. So now she's just confused and really, really spooked. She turns and bolts, running back down the stairs. The only thing on her mind is getting out. She gets to the front door, grabs the handle, and it's jammed. She knows for a fact she left it open, but now it would not move. She pulled, she shoved, she threw her entire body weight against it. Nothing. It was like it was sealed shut. And that
That's when the real full-blown panic finally set in.
She just starts screaming, pounding her fists against the door. "Please, somebody open the door. I'm stuck in here. Help me." But nobody could hear her. She was completely and utterly trapped inside this dark, silent house.
And this is where the story takes its final, horrifying twist. Because while the real Annie was trapped, screaming inside that dark house, something else had just crossed over into hers.
That thing in the window, that spirit, whatever it was from that abandoned house, it wasn't in the window anymore. No, it was inside Annie's home, wearing her face, sleeping in her bed, living with her family.
So while the real Annie was trapped, screaming into the endless darkness of that empty house next door, her parents, they never noticed a thing. They never knew that the girl who came home that night wasn't their daughter. To them, she had just, finally stopped throwing those silly tantrums.